do business with people they like. And so building those relationships and building a community feel where people feel, hey, I need some help.
Nothing beats getting in a room together and just throwing stuff up on a whiteboard and seeing what sticks and what slowly slides off as you investigate it further.
It's one thing to be able to say, hey, we know what the issues are. It's something entirely different to be able to say, and here's what the really smart CEOs are doing about it.
Welcome back to The Mind Behind. I'm looking forward to this one because we're inviting a guest back again. That's always a good sign. Today's guest is Sharbani Dhar from Dot Infinity. Now, last time we spoke with Sharbani, we spoke about kind of human-centered AI, the empathy in design of kind of user experience, and whether technology is really connecting us or pulling us further apart. It was one of those conversations that stayed with me, partly because she reminded us that empathy is as powerful in business as it is in life. Since then, she's had a huge year. Sharbani's Dot Infinity has become a partner in the ARC Digital Manufacturing Hub, helping Australia reimagine its manufacturing future with people first solutions, which is an interesting angle on it. And if that wasn't enough, she's also been selected for the Asian Australian Voices cohort, a national programme led by Foreign Minister Penny Wong to amplify the next generation of leaders, shaping Australia's connection with Asia. So today we're going deeper. We'll explore what human-centered design actually looks like in a factory or on a trade mission, how India and Australia can learn from each other's risk appetite, and that's a big one, a really interesting one, and whether empathy really can be a competitive advantage in this age of AI. So strap in, this one covers everything from factory floors to foreign policy. Let's get into it. Sharbani, welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
We did say we'd catch up, and sometimes it takes such a long time, but really good to see you again. Look, the last time we were on, we talked about AI, human behavior, the tech connector. There's been a lot happened, and I know just kind of the separate conversations that we've had, things have moved on for you as well. There's a lot of things we want to talk about, like some of the initiatives and partnerships that you're getting involved with. But what's changed kind of at a high level? What's changed for you in the last 6 months?
I guess I wouldn't call it changed, more like evolved. Lots been happening.
Yep.
I think one of the most significant things that's happened is that Dot Infinity is now part of Digital Manufacturing Hub, the Australian Research Council Digital Manufacturing Hub, which is very exciting because now we can really participate in the what do you call it? The actual manufacturing industry, and look at how humans and machines interact. What are the challenges on the shop floor, and how we can essentially bring efficiency with human centricity in AI applications. So very excited about that. And then the other thing is the Asian Australian Voices program, which I'm very passionate about at a personal level. This is a program by Foreign Minister, the Honorable Penny Wong, and she has essentially chosen 21 Australians across Australia with Asian origins to inform bilateral policy using their media presence, which is quite a lot of responsibility, but very exciting as well, because I can touch on my favorite topic, which is innovation across India and Australia. So very excited about that.
It's a lot, but I'll tell you what, let's start with that, with Australian Voices and kind of that the Australia-India corridor for innovation and for trade. What is the recognition of being kind of one of those 21 Australians? What does the recognition mean to you personally and professionally?
A lot. I think it's a very humbling position to be in, to be honest, because it comes, as I said, it comes with a lot of responsibility to ensure that we are putting forth our views in an unbiased manner, and yet making sure that all of our views are true to what we believe in. and making sure that it reflects what is happening in the world right now, what's happening in Australia, what's happening, say, in my home country, India, and how the world is changing rapidly as well. So definitely, both on a personal as well as professional front, it is amazing to be part of this program. But I'm also very nervous because I want to do right by it.
Sharbani, no, we've had several conversations over the last few months. I am absolutely certain that you're gonna look after this and take it responsibly. Look, Minister Penny Wong talks about building Asia literacy.
Yes.
In your viewpoint, what's the biggest blind spot then between kind of knowing both markets between Australia and India and how they understand each other's innovation ecosystem?
I think one of the biggest blind spots, or rather, I would say misconception, is that rest of Asia is a third world country. To put it as bluntly as possible, and we as first world have certain standards, certain regulations, which is very true and which is a good thing to have.
Yeah.
We do not want to understand or adopt anything coming from Asia. I think that's a very generic popular mindset which needs to change, because right now, if you look at growth economies, they are the highest growth economies possible. India is on one of the fastest tracks to growth, and it will probably overtake most countries in terms of its growth trajectory within a few years. So how do we, Australia, as a very strong neighbor to that country, how do we capitalize on it? How do we really push our innovation dialogue, our education, so that we can interact better with our neighbors and learn from them, and not just learn from them, have a shared understanding of what can make us stronger as a region? A lot is happening across the world. There are wars in Europe. There is tariffs were coming from North America. Let's just say that.
I think I've heard of them.
Yes.
Once or twice have been
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, just once or twice we've heard of them. So that puts us in a very challenging position. That actually shows how much of dependency we've had on the rest of the Western world, which we don't need to. Asia is a powerful market for us. It's a powerful, essentially, outlet for all Australian businesses. You've sold to, say, one city in India or China. You've essentially traded with the entire population of Australia,
Yeah.
and that's not a joke. So it is really important, in order to be able to trade with those countries, it's really important that your Asia literacy has to be strong. And one of the, again, looking back at the blind spot which you mentioned, I think it all ties down to the cultural gaps. And when I say cultural gaps, I mean the mindset that we need to have when we are trading with India or China. We need to understand and respect how they speak trade. And we need to make them understand how we speak trade. How do we build relationships, and how do we build trust? So it needs to be what do you call a two-way conversation?
You know what? It's an interesting thought, because the kind of last 25, 30 years where I've been involved with business, anytime we talk about Asia, we talk about capitalizing. It tended to be on a cost basis. It kind of be, manufacturing, it costs less, the products cost less, gave you maybe a competitive advantage. But now we're talking about trust, we're talking about human behavior, and you use the word capitalize on Australia capitalizing on what a country like India is doing.
Yes.
Rather than, and I just wonder if the mindset's normally been the other way around. It's like we'll capitalize or even take advantage of what's there, rather than actually we need to know this now. We need to see what's happening. Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at India, and I talk to innovation. If you look at the pace of innovation in India, it's phenomenal. Just in July, I was in India. We toured across 4 different cities along with my collaborator Sangeeta Mulchandani from Jumpstart Studios, and as part of the Australia-India Innovation Corridor, we talked to about 8 different universities in India, tier 1, tier 2 universities, and it was mind blowing, the kind of innovation that is there, and not just the kind of work that they are doing, but the kind of passion that they have. and how driven they are, how hungry they are. And we need to learn from that hunger. We need to, because that hunger is what is driving them to be one of the stronger economies in the world right now. And that is driving employment over there. That is driving better economic status for the overall population as well. And that is one thing which we need to learn from. And if you look on the other side, when you look at Indian innovators, they're very good at hitting market very quickly. Their speed to market is phenomenal. And that is because of also it is attributed to something called jugaad, which is a Hindi word which means I don't know how to I don't know what's the English translation of it, but it essentially means in a way make things happen anyway. So,
Yeah.
which is great because it gives them that speed to market, but it is also detrimental to the credibility and trust that they have at times, because in their speed to market, in their hunger for speed to market, they
Yep.
often are not able to make sure that the quality controls are in place, or the quality controls are left as the last thing that needs to be taken care of. Whereas in Australia, in contrast, if you look at the innovators in Australia, they're very aware about quality controls, and the pace of innovation is quite considerably slower.
Yep.
But the credibility for Australian innovators is pretty high in the investment market because they ensure that quality controls are in place. So there is a contrast between both the countries. How do we bridge that gap? I think that is the question that we need to answer, and that is why we have launched this corridor.
I know we've spoken about this on more than one occasion just over the last few months about kind of that speed. And a large part of what we do is we work with businesses on. We see trust being such a large part of business. It always has been, but especially now, especially with kind of the change in innovation and AI coming in and all these different things that we can actually trust what we're saying, what we're doing, what's happening. I'm just curious about will the Australian market ever will the Australian market ever be good with something being compromised before it goes to market just for the speed? It's a genuine question. I'm not quite sure if I'll go with the Australian or the American or the UK market, the ones that I know. Would they compromise that quality or the effect of it? What would be the effect of that damage of trust?
I think that is you've hit the nail on the head. The question shouldn't be that we are compromising on the quality when we
Yeah.
are hitting the market. Rather, how can we build something which is small enough, which is still high quality, and
Yeah.
yet it can give us enough learnings once we put it out in the market, and then we keep building upon it. It's it's a classic agile principle in a way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
True. Yeah.
we need to start getting agile in our innovation as well. And I think that is the spirit that we need to get, where you don't have to build that final amazing product. Yes, that is important, but how do you understand what is the soul of your product? What is the core USP of your product? How do you put that in as small a package as possible,
Mhm.
ensuring quality, ensuring speed, and then hit the market? Keep learning from the customer feedback. That actually makes you a lot more resilient as a product as well. So you
Okay.
are actually compounding on your quality instead of compromising on it.
Again, I mean, we're talking about speed of change at the moment. If you take too long in innovating a product, it's going to be out of date. I mean, I can just imagine that that's probably happening all over the world at the moment, where we've had some great ideas and something else has overtaken it. Come on, can you give us just a little bit of insight? What products, what services, what things are getting you excited that you've seen that are being innovated? What are the ones that you're going, man, I feel privileged that I've seen this?
I can't take any names right now.
Yeah.
But what I can say is I was recently judging some entries for the CES Innovation Awards.
Mhm.
CES is the Consumer Electronics Show, which happens in Las Vegas, one of the biggest technology fairs. And the kind of innovation that is happening on that platform, and the kind of submissions and entries that you get are just mind blowing. And I think what gets me excited is where people are building, very small products, which might be, say, meant for, you know, enhance mobility for accessibility challenged people. But then that same product can actually bring about safety in manufacturing industries, or
Right.
in really complex environments, say high risk environments like skyscrapers, or maintenance of certain products which are high risk. I apologize. I'm not able to
No,
share
I
any
get that.
specific products, but I think that is what is exciting me, where using Gen AI or using just AI and machine learning,
Yeah.
we are now able to make simple products into so much smarter applications, which are just completely compounding, and just making work easier and smarter, and is removing so much of risk from our everyday lives. So I think that's what excites me right now. If you look at manufacturing industry, especially, we were recently looking at we were sharing some notes at a manufacturing hub conference, and it is amazing when you look at specifically the manufacturing industry of Australia, which has been challenged with an aging population, or aging skill set. And that is where I saw some amazing innovation happen, where somebody who is probably 60 years of age, they are part of a very high skilled profession. They do certain types of inspections which ensure quality of build of certain joineries. And now this particular skill set is completely dying out from the Australian market, because none of the younger lot are coming in, and the older lot are retiring. So their knowledge, their richness of their knowledge is no longer going to be available for us. So what we are doing using AI and ML is we are trying to uh, digital twin is a very simplistic way of putting it, but essentially we are trying to transpose that knowledge into machine learning, so that we can actually continue to use that experience and knowledge for years to come, without having to worry about that skill set being completely extinct from the market. So I think these are some of the, I'm sorry I couldn't take specific names, but these are
No,
some of the
you
things
get
which really excite me.
right. I get excited. Then I suppose my job is to think about it kind of the on the other side. Then, if we can grab that knowledge and that experience from the kind of the exiting workforce, let's call it that
Yeah.
way, but regardless of age, that knowledge and skill, and we can kind of capture that within technology. Can we not just capture anybody's knowledge then?
Yes.
Does that not kind of move humans away from it again and makes me all a little bit nervous? Am I still going to be relevant, Sharbani? Tell me. Am I still going to be relevant?
Yeah, probably I should be talking to an AI bot of yours, Grant.
How do you know it's me? Uh,
We that's a very valid question which everybody is asking right now, and to be honest, even I ask myself at times. I think humans will continue to be relevant, because where we have seen the maximum power of AI is where humans have got augmented using AI tools and applications. And that is where we have seen maximum efficiencies, the best decisions being taken, and some of the best outcomes. So I think humans will definitely be relevant, but uh, the where they are relevant, I think that will change.
yeah, good point.
So,
Yes.
for example, if you're looking at, again, going back to the skyscraper, say if you're looking at a window cleaner, right?
Mhm.
And it's a high risk job. A window cleaner is climbing a skyscraper and cleaning the thing.
Yep.
Now, the reason why it's usually done manually is obviously because the height of the skyscrapers are it is a challenge, but also the quality that needs to be carried out. Now, imagine if there are machines who are doing that, but then at the same time, there needs to be somebody behind the machine as well. So you've got enhanced safety, you've got you've mitigated your risk. At the same time, you're ensuring human life is safer. But they are still doing the job. It's just that they're doing it from behind the screen. Right now, if you look at a lot of mining operations in Australia, you'll be surprised how many mine workers are actually not actually going into the mines. They don't need to go into the mines and high risk mines. And instead, they've got robots which are operating and essentially being the miners who are sitting somewhere remotely in Bihar, in India. So it's amazing the kind of work that's happening.
You just remind me, we're doing a lot of work with Athiona, and they're doing the tunnel under the Sydney Harbour, so the new car tunnel, and
Yeah.
they've got this new drilling machine thing. It's AI driven. The size of this, and it's kind of operated by this minimal crew.
Yeah.
It just watch it. They've released. I'll send you. They've released a super video on LinkedIn just to kind of give an explanation of how a borer is actually working nowadays.
Exactly.
And it's a lot of kind of AI driven, knowing what kind of deposits are under there, what kind of minerals are under there. It's a really interesting process. And if we go into window cleaners, maybe my windows will get cleaned more often in my high rise.
Oh, yes. I
Yes,
would love
maybe
that.
it'll happen more often if we don't if we don't need to physically put people down there and there's somebody just operating the machine. I still don't understand it. There's been self-cleaning glass for years, but I never see it getting used anywhere. Right, let's go into let's have a look at the manufacturing part.
Yeah.
'Cause you've also got a partnership now with the Australian Research Council, the Digital Manufacturing Hub.
Yes.
Talk to us, what's that about?
So Digital Manufacturing Hub has been um, uh, an entity which is set up, which is a collaboration between some key Australian universities, namely Swinburne, there is RMIT, there's University of Queensland, I think University of South Australia as well. And then there are manufacturing industries that are welcome to participate in it. So the idea is that we will, this particular hub will look at potentials of innovation in manufacturing using digital media. So where digital interventions can actually help drive either efficiency in manufacturing or safety in manufacturing or just overall better outcomes.
Right.
So you've got everything, like you've the profile of industries is really very interesting. If you go to the website, you'll realize there are companies which say manufacture something as tiny as industrial screws, which are very
Yep.
custom built, to companies which are manufacturing aeroplanes and aircraft bodies. So the remit is pretty broad. But I think the aim of the overall thing is to look at how we can look at some common challenges that happen in manufacturing and how we can use digital interventions, whether it's wearables, whether it's digital twins, or whether it's just better data analysis and richer data analysis to bring about efficiencies.
What's a digital twin?
Ooh. So digital twin, to put it in very layman's terms, it is a digital replica of a machine, or it's sometimes even a human in a way, um, uh, in as exact possible way as possible, not in terms of the physical ways, but in terms of the data that it is ingesting,
Mhm.
the kind of physical conditions that are happening around the machine, or and so essentially it's an amalgamation of and a replication using all of that, so that there are two purposes. One is that you can monitor what's going on real time, so that you can ensure that you know what is happening if things are going wrong or versus things are going right. You can essentially monitor live. And the other thing is, and even control it in a way. And the other thing is predictive modeling. So it helps in predictive modeling because you can essentially predict, if we change these certain conditions, then this is how this particular machine is going to behave. So it's a great tool to understand if you're, if from within everyday things or even industrial operations, it is a great tool to understand what is happening, what can go wrong, and how we can control, certain scenarios. To put it, for example, I'll give you a very simple example: the digital twin of an aircraft wing. Now that is, so you replicate that entire aircraft wing on a digital platform, and then
Yep.
you can stress test it without having to actually stress test, which can be a very, very expensive affair. You can stress test it using, giving different physical variations, giving different pressure variations, height and altitude and all of that, and you can see whether the wing will withstand everything or not. So it's a great way to look at all the adverse scenarios and then go for the final physical test, which can actually reduce massive costs for organizations.
I mean, I'm making a huge assumption. I'm hoping I'm right with this assumption that there's always kind of there's these calculations when we're looking within engineering. Just say we're stress testing a wing. I agree with you. I would rather stress test a wing digitally than be in the aeroplane as it's being tested. I would much rather do it. I'm pretty good with that. I'll watch it on a screen. How is that? How is it different from how we've done it in the past? Because my guess is that what we've had is a whole lot of calculations. Much smarter people than me are looking at this. Engineers are looking at it. What will be if this happens? This is kind of the likely outcome. I mean, that's a mature industry. So I'm curious, what's the difference with that? Is it more
I would
accurate?
say using AI, what can happen, what really augments the process is that it can think of, it can replicate a lot of scenarios, firstly, which you wouldn't have thought of before, because of the kind of data set that you might have. And then it can also predict a lot of conditions which you wouldn't have thought of.
Okay.
And it can do it far faster than any human would have done it.
Yeah.
So I think that is the biggest advantage, where probably as manually, if we would have tried to do those stress tests using our existing or rather earlier technology, it would have probably taken us maybe few days, maybe 30 days or 40 days to carry out a particular test. At the same time, the same test can be done within a couple of hours. So that's a huge efficiency in manufacturing, if you see. Or for that matter, for any other, for example, when I was working at Australia Post, we used to use, the organization uses digital twins. I can't say we used to because I did not use it. The organization uses digital twins to predict what are the peak times, what are, in terms of parcel volumes, in terms of, certain conditions that might be, say, bushfires or floods and things like that. So we can actually manage the workforce accordingly, which is a great way to be able to handle those kind of deliveries or handle those kind of volumes. So it's a great way for organizations to preempt beforehand what can happen, which was not possible very well before. Now you can work, like probably earlier you would have worked out, say, 30 scenarios. Now you can work out 3,000 scenarios where things can go wrong. So that's a huge difference.
I tell you one thing I'm hearing, and you might have broken this to me a little bit more gently. I'm hearing that we're coming towards the end of crash test dummies. Is that the case?
I don't think that'll ever go away.
Oh, that's okay.
Look, even your crash test dummies would be fitted. Actually, even now, I think they are fitted with certain monitoring data, which can actually tell us much better, information on what will happen on a crash.
It's actually an interesting point, because I think probably when it first started, it was something that kind of replicated the weight and shape of a human, but there's a lot more kind of sensors and everything that are put in there now to be able to do that.
I must say that there is a disclaimer, though. I think one of the biggest challenges, especially in manufacturing, is the scarcity of data. So when you look at any AI application, generally you're working for an AI to be able to give you good analysis. You need thousands of data points. The challenge with manufacturing is usually the data points are in hundreds. So I think that is another challenge which the Digital Manufacturing Hub is looking at. How can you work within a very limited data point, or how you can essentially get more data points out of the same process than what is currently available. So there are different amounts of challenges. Yeah, it's just about how we have to tackle them.
Sharbani, every time we talk, you give me, I'm kind of thinking about something else. So my natural place then is, if we're making those decisions now, humans are making those decisions, are we making decisions with not enough data? Or are we better at making decisions with limited data than AI or digitalization is? And would it get there? I don't know. Is there an answer to that?
Looking at everything that's happening in social media right now and how people are reacting to it, I think we are, to be honest, we have the problem with humans is it is a problem, yet it is an advantage as well. We bring in bias in terms of our decision making. Sometimes that bias can be a good thing, where we bring our human thinking, that empathy, which forms better decisions, and at other times it might be complete stupidity.
Yeah, there is definitely a propensity for complete stupidity.
Exactly.
I don't know how many times it is. You've touched on empathy there. That was something that we spoke about the last time.
Yes.
And there's a couple of things. We always talk a lot about digitalization, about kind of what's happening, about AI, about tech, and everything like that. But you're very passionate that humans are still involved here. And even when we talk about manufacturing, we tend to think about machines rather than people. I know that's kind of not your take. You've got you. It feels like you see it maybe in a slightly either different way or a broader way than most. That humans are absolutely still a vital part of this.
100%, 110%. If you look at manufacturing as well, there are people on the shop floor who are doing things in a certain way to bring about different efficiencies. And or there are people behind the shop floor as well who are contributing to the process. And a lot of times when things go wrong, which happen on an everyday basis, there are certain decisions which drive people or certain scenarios by which they act. Sometimes they're hacking the process, sometimes they are building their ways around the process, and that is where the actual goal lies. And that is some of the things which generally, if you look at AIs or robotic applications, they are not very good at looking at those things. And that's why you need humans still very importantly in the decision making space to ensure that when things go wrong, there is somebody to veto the decision of a machine, looking at a lot of other factors which are beyond the purview of the machine. um, and that is why humans will continue to stay relevant, whether it's manufacturing or anything else. Yes, humans might move out of the shop floor. We know about dark shops which are happening across the world. But at the same time, when there is a dark shop, there are some certain humans who are still responsible for it. At the end of the day, and this is according to responsible AI guidelines as well, a human has to be responsible for any AI application that is, hitting the market.
Did I hear you say dark shops?
Yes.
Explain to me, what's a dark shop?
So dark shop is essentially a workshop where there is no human intervention at all. Essentially, there are no humans on the shop floor at all. The entire assembly, entire process is carried out by robotic applications. So yeah, it's essentially very beneficial where safety is paramount, quality is paramount, and human error is completely out of question. So yeah, it is something which is increasingly being used, especially in the automobile industry and many other industries now as well.
Yeah, the movement in the automobile industry is really interesting. So yeah, I've seen it. Ford are even looking at changing how they manufacture now, and it's when we go back to the originator of the production line, and now they're looking at it completely differently.
If you look at EVs right now as well, batteries being manufactured, it's a huge safety, an area where safety needs to be considered a lot, human safety as well. So these are certain areas or applications where dark shops become quite relevant.
Really interesting you say that. We've been working on a couple of projects just over the last few weeks where safety is absolutely paramount. It's it's paramount everywhere. I get that, but there's this kind of focus on what gets in the way of people being safe. And when you mentioned wearables earlier and everything, right away I'm going into kind of how do you apply that? How do we make humans better at what we do, safer at what we do, less complacent, all these different things that kind of the machines or AI will not get complacent. It will just kind of run a complete pattern.
Yeah.
So I could see how that could come in. Is it is there anything that Australia should be stealing shamelessly from India for manufacturing and stuff like that attitude? I'm wondering if it's that speed of change, if it's that kind of mindset that would make the difference. Or are there other things that you've seen that Australia should be going, that's how we should do it?
Um, as you just said it is the mindset. I think we should be stealing some of that hunger and that passion to innovate, especially in the manufacturing space, because that is one industry which has really suffered over the years. And that really needs, for any healthy economy, construction and manufacturing are two key industries, two key indicators for it to have long-term sustenance. So definitely we should be looking at that. And I think it is just that zeal to innovate and that accessibility to innovation. I think that is one thing which I feel is still missing right now. You have accessibility to the, what do you call, the infrastructure to be able to innovate only if you're part of an university ecosystem. And I think we need to start bringing our innovation outside of universities, and encourage small time entrepreneurs who are good at commercializing their products to benefit from having access to some sort of infrastructure to innovate better, which also means that we should be better at commercializing our products. I think we, and this is me speaking from a very, so take it with a pinch of salt. This is my limited understanding of the university ecosystem over here, simply because I did not study here. I did my studies back in India, but I still feel that commercialization is one thing which we could have done better. Commercialization of ideas, and also being open to commercializing it in non-first world economies. Test it out. This is a, you know what? Countries like India or China, Philippines, all of them are great for testing out products because they have that hunger to try out these kind of products. And Australia has a lot of credibility when it comes to products, especially in being an Indian. I know from in India, definitely there's a huge amount of credibility for Australian products. Use that as a testing ground. I don't mean as guinea pigs, sorry, but more as a testing ground of how your product can behave in the market. And to be honest, if it is doing well, you don't even need to look at a first world for selling your product, because you're looking at 1 billion people as your market.
Wow. Now, you mentioned commercialization and infrastructure to innovation. And we'll talk about universities, but you're also in a government-led scheme. I always wonder if things would move quicker if it was, purely commercial or purely business that was doing this and had it rather than government.
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
I would love to see an Australia where it is easier to invest also. Can we look at a policy to make it easier to invest within this country instead of our investors looking outside, which also brings us to the investor mindset. If you and this is something which I'm quoting verbatim from somebody who I met while I was traveling for the CES conference early this year, where I met an Australian innovator. And he was talking about how he went to a lot of Australian investors with his idea. It was a great idea, and he was turned down by all investors, all possible avenues. And then he decided to bring that idea to the US. His idea was bought over by Apple, and he was also made the head of innovation at one of their labs in California. So I think that is a testament to how close-minded we are in terms of what we can do to innovate. And another thing which I heard now from an Australian investor was that the investment landscape of US is quite mature. You know, when you're looking at a healthcare product, the people who you're meeting to invest in your product, you know, they have a team of doctors, they have a team of, you know, medical specialists and healthcare professionals who are also there to look at a product and then decide whether it's worth investing or not.
Viability, yeah.
We don't have that over here. We don't have those niche investment, what do you call those niche investment markets as of now. That maturity in our investment market yet. So I think if we have to look at faster innovation, we will have to look at how do we improve or incentivize investment in Australia as well. That is something which really needs to be shaken up. Yeah, and that we can see the examples from India and China. Most of the innovation is actually privately funded as well. They don't rely on the universities and funds at all, in fact, to push through their innovative innovation ventures.
So we're seeing a lot of kind of good ideas, products, innovation that's started in Australia leaving the country?
Yes, we do see that. Again, quoting another story where somebody came to me looking, asking me if I can forward their resume for potential jobs. And this person was specifically into LiDAR manufacturing, very smart kid. Young guy, has worked in the LiDAR manufacturing industry after finishing his graduation for about 3 years. And sorry, when I say LiDAR manufacturing, I mean manufacturing using LiDAR technology. And one of the challenge, he said that he right after university, he was working for a great startup. They did some amazing work, and then they could not find any Australian investors. The product was bought by Chinese investors, and then the entire thing was shipped to China. The entire manufacturing, the entire know-how, and the intelligence, and all of the Australian team was made redundant. It's a very sad story, but that is the reality of what is happening right now. A lot of people, a lot of innovators are going to Chinese investors. They are going to other investors outside of Australia, and then the know-how, the wealth of intelligence is being lost, and as a result, potential revenue from that product could have been completely for Australia. It could have generated jobs in Australia, is now lost.
What do we need to do to change that? Is it just mindset?
It's policy as well. Definitely mindset, policy. It's not one thing in isolation, but I think a lot of things contribute to that. In my small space, from where I'm looking at things, I would say definitely mindset and policy.
What kind of policy? When you say policy, what do you mean by policy?
Just policy to overall policy around innovation ventures, or overall policy around manufacturing, overall taxation. I had recently written an op-ed for the Australian Financial Review, and one of the things that I talked about in that was industrial reforms and taxation. Right now, there is almost 30% tax which Australia charges on anybody who's coming into the country, essentially for what do you call it, for any of these kind of ventures, whereas in other countries it's quite different. I think one of the best examples would be Singapore. Again, tiny country, tiny population, so we can't give our population as an excuse. You can see with Singapore how amazingly they have turned their economy around. So I think we have some lessons to learn from our Asian neighbors.
It's incredible the importance of Singapore for the size of it, and also how recent. Relatively recent that all that is, and just the importance that they've got. Okay. Couple of final things, Sharbani. Okay. 10 years forward, 10 years forward, it's all gone right. What does the Australia-India innovation corridor look like? What do we see happening?
I think for me, if 10 years down the line, if things go right, then it wouldn't be called Australia-India Innovation Corridor. It will be just an innovation corridor where innovation can happen without any name tags or constraints.
Mm.
And people don't think about innovation just within their local economies. They are thinking globally right from day one. And that is how we need to think in a world where, borders are becoming less and less visible.
Final question. Final one. It's always the challenge. I know the last time when we looked at a challenge, you challenged listeners to spend 30 minutes with somebody who had an opposing view. And that's something I've done. I've actually done quite a lot. And it's interesting. I think over the last 6 months, I've deliberately been listening to podcasts with the opposing view, kind of watching more, just to understand where people's thinking are. We don't need to agree with them, but just, and I can't always understand why they've got to where they've got to. But what challenge do you think, or do you have for this one? What do we think people could do slightly differently that might just open up some of their ideas, thoughts on what's happening now?
Oh boy. I think there are a lot of challenges, but probably let's look at a simple challenge. Let's look at how the world is changing around us with AI, and everybody's worried about whether their job is going to stay in place or not, whether humans will be relevant or not. I think I want to challenge people to really take a pause and think within their job role or within whatever they are doing every day. If AI applications are doing majority of the work, what will they be doing? Really
Yeah.
give it a thought, like how can they firstly use AI to augment themselves, and secondly still be ahead of AI so that they are still critical when it comes to the job that they are doing.
Great advice. How can it augment us? How
Yes.
can we work with it and
Yeah.
not fear it?
Yeah, I recently
Sharbani,
heard this word called cyborgification, which is apparently,
cyborgification. Oh, I'm stealing that one. You just
yeah, I
thrown that one at
recently
the
heard it
end.
myself. So
Come on.
apparently it's when humans augment themselves using AI tools and applications. So
Cyborgification. That's fantastic.
makes it sound so scary, to be very honest.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, our next talk's going to be on cyborgification.
Okay, done.
If I can work out how to say it properly, but I think I've got there. Cyborgification.
Yeah.
What a way to close. Sharbani, as always, really insightful. Thank you for kind of sharing what you see, your opinions, and what's going on. I'm going to guess in another few months' time, we'll kind of want to be jumping back on here because things will have changed again. But in the meantime, look forward to catching up.
Same here.
Same city again. All right. Thanks,
All
Sharbani.
right.
Take
See
care.
ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.